and welcome to another League of Legends tutorial. In this one, for all roles, all level of players, is something a little bit different. I want to convey some concepts and tips that can help you learn and improve. In general, not top 17.5 tips to climb, but actual approaches that will help you improve permanently, including mechanics and practice approaches. As a teacher, it's common to see people adapt to different speeds, and in League, the same is true across ranks, normals, or simply just learning different champions. Some people pick up complicated mechanical champions better than others, and others have a better macro sense and use that to their advantage. The goal of this video is to talk about my 4-stage approach that you can use, whatever your goals, to truly improve at League of Legends. And finally, I will be showing you a brief outline of how this can make crucial and momentum swinging plays, even in the very early game, that can cause wins and losses. I have a part 2 of this video planned, stemming on how to do a VOD review and including more macro and additional practice tips, so if you enjoy this video and want a second one, you know what to do. Now, starting off with mechanics and practice basics is the most accessible, as all of us want to get better with certain champions, or at CSing, teamfighting, and more. The fundamental key to learning is to do so in a way that is constructive and meaningful. I'm not going to quote theoretical philosophy of learning texts and bore you to death with mundane descriptions like the other videos on this topic, but suffice it to say, there are progressions to how learning can be optimized that, based on various teaching ideas, can work in a multitude of subjects, even in League. I hesitate to call it something like the Virkayu method, but you will move from theory to practice to application to mastery, and we're going to break down what each of these mean and how they can help you improve. So beginning with theory, how often do you see streamers and pro players go to League wikis and look at ability scalings on new champions or any champion they want to learn? Obviously a lot just goes straight into ranked, but that isn't the best way to learn a champion if the game isn't literally your job and you exist around it all the time. Reading the abilities and understanding what purpose a champion has, is it a mage, is it a tank, is it an Aurelia, is fundamental to the process of learning. If the champion isn't new, there are bound to be detailed videos with combos and breakdowns of the most efficient ways of playing their champion, an example being Riven as a classic one. Understanding the nature of your goal and how to achieve it is step 1, it's the theory, planning and preparing the materials and the method for your experiment, as it were. We need to know the champion we want to play, what they do, what are some ways to optimize it. Maybe you saw a stream or pro play game or something like that, or someone did an action and you want to replicate it, much like any classical sport or anything that requires mechanics. So taking that, then you need to practice. That's the second phase. So if we look at learning a champion, for example, the most core mechanic of League of Legends, practicing them, the practical approach, is step 2. Now, using this method and representing it on a very simple graph, you want to practice in an environment that lets you focus on the task at hand, the champion. You don't study for your science test while also having a howler monkey scream in your ear. You want to be able to use maximum focus, or as much of your simian brain as you can, on learning the champion without worrying about outside factors like stresses from the ranked game or flame from your bonobo teammates. This means if you want to learn, say, Camille, after you perhaps see the Gameplay Monday I put up a few months ago where the Camille does a flash E combo under the tower at level 3, and you want to learn this mechanic, you don't want to queue up and go straight into normal and try and do it, and definitely not ranked. You need to focus on the mechanics of the champion and applying what you just saw and read. That means taking her into the practice tool, doing a first clear, walk around and simply seeing the scaling of the walls that you can do with the limits of her E. The same can be done with Aatrox, Kayn, or anyone that has some sort of map scaling. And now when it comes to the E flash over the wall, the specific mechanic you want to replicate, you can set everything up to be on auto cooldowns, health restoration, put a practice dummy, and go. You don't want to spam it stupidly though, you need to spam it meaningfully. You need to practice, reset, change the angles, and all of this gives you valuable context and application of the thing you're trying to learn. Eventually, when you do get it, now you need to repeat it a few times to get that muscle memory going. You need to see it work, you need to make it work more efficiently for you. And that's something you can continually do, or should continually do, to keep your mechanics developing, to keep them working, practicing your combos every single day before you play ranked. Obviously, this requires more discipline and is for the more dedicated player, but it is definitely something that will help you learn more and improve in the long run. The same can be said for something simpler like Warwick's Q. I mentioned in my literal first ever tutorial in 2017 about how you can maximize your ability using the different ranges on his Q to get the most out of Warwick's ganks. I had a much easier time going downhill with that Q and a much more tough time going to the right and up. So I go into the practice tool, I set up some dummies for a relay, and I practice zooming through each of them and going from left to right and right to left. Using practice dummies for things like this, for combos, exploring the limits of abilities on any champion lets you become familiar with them by slowing down the actions needed to optimize their playstyle. It lets you process it efficiently and properly in an environment that doesn't cause you any sort of additional stress. Much like learning to lift, you don't rush into squat the first time. You warm up, you practice with the bar, you put some light weights on, You learn the mechanics and then you build up, because if you don't, it can be very, very dangerous for your back and for the rest of your body. And some exercises are easier to pick up than others, but that's very similar to how Warwick and Camille work in this example. Both still require practice in the beginning phases of learning how to play them. Now from here, we need to apply this. We need to apply what we've learned so far from the theory and from the practice. We need to actually do the lab. Practicing a champion in the practice tool after reading about it means you are engaging in the champion mechanics in a stress-free environment. Now, what pushes the limit of your capability is increasing that stress, and the goal then is to reduce the amount of, for lack of a better term, brain capacity used on the champion so that you can maximally focus on the game. You don't want to be thinking about tracking the enemy jungler and ganking while also finicking around with your champion. Now for some people, they are willing to engage maximum stress for both situation and champion in order to push their learning to the limits, their understanding, and in turn, their proficiency. This is the fastest path to mastery if it works, but it isn't for everyone and can hinder progress to those who are having a harder time picking up certain aspects of the game or champion. If you haven't pieced together what I'm trying to say, it's that you have to decide whether to now practice in a less stress environment first, but more than practice tool. Go to normals perhaps and slowly increase the stress of the environment while reducing the stress of the champion in order to get to that level where you can go full blast in ranked, or you can go into the deep end, straight into ranked once you've done a few things in the practice tool, but with that comes the risk of losing a lot of LP, not performing too well, losing confidence on the champion. All of these things will increase the stress of the whole situation and decrease your learning on the champion. This is why people recommend simpler champs in lower elos, because otherwise it's very easy to become overwhelmed and not focus on your game nor champion, as you are trying to split focus and then just become frustrated. Learning something means having specific goals and targets, and you can't achieve that if you're trying to do too many things at once. If you really want to focus on improving your gank pathing, for example, and you want to do it in ranked, you want to choose a champion that you know very well so you can actually focus on that one thing. You want to learn and improve at it by practicing it. The core idea here is that with your increasing application, practice, and theory, that you can begin to infer events based on the knowledge and experience you have, but more on that shortly. And now, whether you've gone into ranked and lost a whole bunch of LP and then eventually broken through the barrier and learned how to play the champion, or you took a more ordered approach where you went from practice tool to normals to confidence to ranked, we have mastery. This is when your knowledge of the environment and of the champion reduce overall stress significantly. You are, to be cliche, in the zone more often than not. The game slows down, you become the champion you are playing, you're seeing through their eyes, you see the enemy's every move. The fact that it's a ranked game doesn't affect your performance, it doesn't phase you, and you're able to let the necessary actions be at the front of your mind, the goal of the game. This is something pros and high elo players have, where it allows them to pick up new champions and mechanics much quicker than the rest of us, because they can see the game as a whole without compromising different aspects of their match that they want to learn or focus on. All of this is based on our mentality, our approach to the game. And this doesn't happen without consistent practice, consistent application, and without deliberate practice. Most of us coast through our ranked games because we think we are improving, we think we are doing our best to get better, but in actual fact, we're just here to try and win this game and then move on to the next. We're playing game by game, and we're not playing with a focus on improving our game, our champion mechanics, our macro decisions. If we do all of these things, we will climb faster in the long run, but this can only be done and compared to how people subscribe to fad diets, crash diets, insanely low calories. Yes, you lose your weight, but you become bitter, hungry, grumpy, and just as soon as you finish the diet and lost that weight, you're gonna rebel and put it back on again. Whereas if you took a slow and meaningful approach where you intelligently adjusted the cuts to your macros over time, while including a little bit of those M&Ms after you have reached your fiber and micronutrient intake, you will maintain satisfaction while achieving and maintaining your goal. You must actively do all phases of this particular video in order to improve at League of Legends. If you do not, you risk succumbing to your big win streaks and big losing streaks, much like dieting and rebounding. And you will have disappointment when you can't seem to get over that hump of maybe reaching Gold 4, Plat 4, whatever your goals are. Spending time in practice tool daily to work on your combos, warming up doing them even. Spending time reviewing your VODs to see where you may have been on autopilot, missed a macro play, walked over a ward. Focus intensely on your mechanical side as well. Don't button mash, be patient, learn to predict, time enemy skills and movements so you can execute with the precision of certain ET's ability to create annoying champions. Keep your mouse close to your character so you can move quickly, with agility to dodge skill shots. All of this takes time to perfect and the things you need to actively think about when you're playing the game. And sometimes that means playing a normal to focus on that rather than just going blindly and ranked all the time. And when you want to understand how to better beat another champion, you can start from stage 1 with their champion and practice tool. Learn the cooldowns. This works for every lane and every role. To close now, I will give a brief example of how this application can work in the context of a game, both positively and negatively. I am Warwick, the enemy is Camille. I am of course playing jungle as a jungler, but apply this to any one of your roles, and we're going to look at the mid lane as well. Having watched streams, practiced and played a bit of Camille myself, even though I don't main her or actively play her, I did it so I could understand her better. I know she will most likely start on the red buff and either go directly to a blue, topside scuttle, or for a gank. I think all of us know it at this point. Given that this wasn't a super high elo game, I know she's going to do the quintessential Camille Xin thing where she goes from red to topside gank or topside scuttle. This means I can hit directly to her blue as I started on red myself. This is the inference I was talking about earlier. Now I am watching the minimap, I am paying attention to the bot lane rotations in case I may have warded her blue, and just as the Camille shows top, I see that I am free to go about my business. Now let's look at it from the perspective of Aatrox. He's in the mid lane, and I mentioned in chat that Camille started red and will gank top. It was also pinged out. I am on her blue, meaning there's no way she's on this side of the map because I took red and I'm at her blue, as well as taking her grump. Aatrox then proceeds to ward on the bottom side of mid lane. This is an example of someone not conducting deliberate practice, not playing the game actively. He's going through the motions. He didn't come into the game with a goal to learn and improve. He came in just to win one game, using an OP champion in the mid lane, at the time. This player only has a few games of Aatrox, meaning he probably hasn't practiced him enough or had enough application. He's focusing so hard on winning the lane with Aatrox and landing the combos that he can't pay attention to his environment, and he's put a wasteful ward down which won't help him defend himself. Had he put the ward in the pixel bush by the scuttle, or even on our side just next to the river, this would have given vision of Camille rotating to the mid lane for a gank. And considering we knew she was topside, that would have been a good protective ward. The fact that she doesn't even vertically jungle me and take my blue and grump means she'll be behind in early XP as she'll come to her side and see that I've taken everything. This will give us map advantage, make it easier to track her, but due to Aatrox's auto mode, he dies to a very predictable gank, and that's just unfortunate. Okay, so I know this was more a unique and abstract way of looking at the game, but these principles are important in all forms of learning, but definitely help in League, and I tried to tailor it in that sense. You have to have the right mentality towards winning and losing, and the relation to improvement and learning within League. If you're going on these losing streaks, playing random champions, not playing your mains, doing random things in your VOD reviews that you don't understand, you're playing on autopilot. You're not deliberately trying to learn, and so you can't complain when you go on a 10-game losing streak after going on a 10-game winning streak. Luck will be your upfall and your downfall. So don't forget, if you want a part 2 of this based on VOD review and what to look for and things like that, make sure you hit the like button and let me know if that's something you'd want to see. During the preseason, where the stakes are lower, is a great time to instill these good habits so you can improve and climb in Season 9. The stress of the environment is lower, and so you can focus on some things to get better at before your placements. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and comment if you enjoyed and learned something. Consider becoming a member for access to perks and joining us to support the channel. Subscribe for more League videos coming very soon, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.